Hello. How is everyone doing today? Hey, Angie.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good.
Good. Can you guys believe it's week 3 already? Time has just flown. All right. Well, let's wait for everyone else to get in. Let's touch base. I see several of our TAs on board with us, which is great. So how did everyone do with week 2? Any comments or questions about week 2 before we move into week 3? Everyone's good with week 2? Well, I was really impressed, as I said in the email, with the work I saw for week 2. Your Book Circle 1 presentations were amazing, and I really liked the feedback I was seeing on the Flipgrid for your peers. So let's jump right into Book Circle 2 and address any questions you might have. So this one has a few more parts than Book Circle 1. So what questions do you guys have?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple questions. So for the first, the recap of your first Book Circle 1,
Mm-hmm.
Can we use some of the same bullet points, or do you want us to revamp that completely? Like, did you want us to, is it just basically like kind of a condensed overview of your previous book?
Yeah.
Book 1, or do you want us to totally change it around? And
No, you can take what you did in Book Circle 1 and just kind of condense it, revamp it a little bit. I don't expect you to reinvent the wheel. Just think that for Book Circle 2, if you're not in a group of 5, if you're in a larger group, new people will be looking at your Book Circle presentation. So they need to have enough information to know what happened in the first half of the book. So
Okay.
that's mainly what I'm looking for there, is kind of just an overview that gives them enough of a sense of what happened, but not quite as detailed as that Book Circle 1. But you
Okay.
can certainly pull ideas from the first presentation.
Okay, awesome. And then can I ask you one more question?
Yeah, definitely.
So on the second half, with the second half of the slides, are you meaning that it should be one visual per slide? So like 6 slides of visuals, at least 6 slides of
The visual with the text, yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome,
And
thank you.
no problem. And like if you need a few additional slides, since you're adding those visuals, which is going to take up, a third or quarter or maybe even half of the slide, feel free to add more slides. That's fine.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome. Other questions about the presentation format? I hear someone. Remember, you do have to use a different presentation platform than you did the first time. So like if you did Google Slides the first time, you want to switch it up and try something new like Sway or Haiku Deck. We also have eMaze and Prezi. I know that for several people yesterday on the Zoom session talked about Sway and Haiku Deck, having tried those with some good success. Within several of the presentation tools, there are built-in photos as well that you can draw from, like Google Slides has photos you can just plop in. Sway does the same thing, as well as Haiku Deck. So for citing those, since you're taking it directly from the program, just say taken from Google Slides or taken from Haiku Deck, just so that people know where your picture was. Like if it's automatically built into the program, they know, oh, that picture's in the program already. Does that make sense? You don't have to have a separate citation page for that.
How do we do that? I mean, I got some feedback on my initial book review that my graphics weren't as illustrating and as engaging, so I'm kind of going overboard this time. But the eMaze has some great graphics that are included in it, but I'm also including a lot of others. So how can I help you? How do we help you?
Okay, so if you're taking it directly from eMaze, go ahead and just put under the photo taken from eMaze, just so you know that came from the program itself. But say you pull from like Flickr or another place on the internet, go ahead and just say taken from and then put the URL link just so that we know where it came from. And if someone wants to
do that, can I do that like at the bottom of the page? I'm using asterisks.
Yeah, you can do that or just right under the picture, whichever's easier for you. But it doesn't need to be a separate citation page. It can be on that same page of the slide.
Okay. So are you expecting a citation page?
No, not
Other
for
than
the
at the
pictures.
title page?
No, not for the pictures. And like if you've just pulled from the book itself and haven't pulled in additional references, you're fine. Just at the APA citation on the cover or the first slide of your presentation. But say you pull in like something from the iBook and you want to cite it, then you want to include that at the very end. You do not have to do that for the book circle presentations. I'm not looking for that. You're not going to be deducted if you don't do that. But if you happen to pull from another place, a resource, an article, just go ahead and include that at the end.
Right. Okay. All right. I think I'm tracking with you now. Thank you.
Okay. Good. Good. Other questions like that? As far as number of slides, content for the slides. Okay, is everyone clear on the last 4 slides for the classroom-based applications?
That's what I was getting ready to ask about.
Mhm.
I'm a little bit concerned with my last couple slides. I have the finished Lessons 2.0 book,
Mhm.
and I'm wondering, do I just take what I've learned from how they do it differently in Finland and how we could do it?
Yeah, like pull a powerful quote that kind of summarizes what they do in Finland
Okay.
and put that quote on the page. If you want to include a visual under the quote, you can. You don't have to. But then on the next slide, put a couple of bullet points like, I love that, they really respect teachers as professionals. They treat them as such. I think if we did that here, we'd definitely have a lot more teachers going into education. So like kind of make those links between what's shared in the book or the quote you pulled to what we could do here. Yeah, definitely for finished lessons, that's a good way to approach it.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
JK, is that I don't know who you are. I'm Andy Martin, and I'm having the same trouble. I've got the finished lessons too. So but I'll message you. I've got some ideas. I want to know your ideas.
Okay, good. That's great. Yeah, I like that. So you message each other, and you can also put some notes on the chat here too if you want. I'll click that open in case I see anyone. But yeah, really for that one, what I'm looking for is like something that really stood out to you in the book, a quote, an idea, a concept. Put that on the first slide and then put like how you can take that and apply it to your future professional practice. So something that like you're like, everyone should really know this. I know in some of the books, like even just the teacher's statement about how we need to build relationships with students can be something you pull in. It can be about the need to avoid standardized testing as the only measure of student success. So it can be anything that really struck you as you read the book, and just include that quote to kind of give us a sense of, wow, that's a really good concept, and here's how I can take that in my future classroom. Does that help clarify a little bit, those classroom-based applications?
Yeah, it does me. Thank you.
Good, good. And do you have any other tips for them on when it comes to those? Or any of the TAs on? I know Kim's on there too. I saw Dr. Childs is on there.
I was double tasking, so I kind of missed the question a little bit.
Any tips for them when it comes to like the Book Circle 2 presentations, putting them together, or like particularly the classroom-based applications?
Yeah, I think the most important when you're thinking about how to apply it to your classroom is really make it meaningful to your classroom, not like overall like teachers can, but how will you, thinking about if you were in a first grade or sixth grade classroom, what could you take from that book rather than just kind of being broad, I think would be helpful.
Yeah.
I thought they went really well, the first ones. I thought they did a really nice job.
Excellent. Very good. All right. And I know I have Jennifer and Dr. Child, some others on here. So yeah, anything you want to jump in with, please feel free. Any other questions about like the app options that you have for Book Circle 2? Going well. I love Cruz's smiling face there. Okay, and then remember for the posting of Book Circle 2, you're just going to post it under your TA's assigned pages tab. I have fixed it so you should not get a late notice this time if you don't post it on the assignments tab. And there's actually no requirement to post on the assignments tab, just in your TA's pages tab. That way your peers can see all your links and then the TAs can find them easily as well. They'll go in and put the comments in the assignment tab though for you and fill out your rubric. And then when you do the peer response for Book Circle 2, if you're in a larger group, try and pick 4 other people so you get a sense of what the other books were. If you're in a group of 5, though, you're just going to pick the other people within your group. That's fine. A question came up last night in the Zoom session. Should we go to other groups and look at different books and respond to those instead? For the sake and sanity of your TAs, I'm going to say no, don't do that, because then they're going to have to hunt down all those people you looked at. Stick with your group for the Book Circle feedback. But if you've had a chance to jump ahead on the Building Foundations for the Future assignment, that last one on Friday, I did combine groups. So you'll have a chance to see more people responding to, those final applications for the future. I put groups of 10 and groups of 5 together. So you'll have 15 people in one group that you'll be able to kind of look at and see. And the nice thing about that assignment is you're going to put the responses on a Padlet page. So it's kind of like it looks kind of like a Word doc where you'll see everyone's typed responses on the Padlet page. So you'll have an easy reference to everyone's ideas and what they took away. I know that's kind of jumping ahead, but let's look at that last assignment because it does require a Padlet link. There is in the assignment description the URL link for the groups that you've been paired with. So make sure to click on the right URL link with your group's TA and then post your response there. The question came up, since you're doing 3 applications for that final Padlet page, do I want you to post 3 different times? I would recommend keeping it all like one running comment. So you have your title for your first application, your comment, and then if you have any additional links, and I'll talk about those in a second, and then do the second title, your comments, and then the third title and your comments. Keep it all like in one column. That way when your TA goes to find it, they're not having to hunt through the whole page to find all 3 of your comments. It's all just in one column. And then your peers can also be able to see your comments all together. For that, you're going to not only read through and post your applications, you're also going to do a peer response, but it goes right into the Padlet page. So everything's all in one centralized location, which is kind of nice. And you'll be able to see everyone else's thoughts and reactions. One of the things, say an idea you take away for that last enhanced, or the Building Foundations for the Future, maybe you take away the idea of implementing behavior charts. And you've seen a really good example of behavior charts that you want to share with the group. Like there's a video that talks about behavior charts. You can just put the URL to the video at the end of your comment. And that way people can go ahead and look at it. Or if you found a really good article on it, you can include the URL to the article. That's what I mean by any additional information, something that will enhance what you're sharing or your application for the future. So you're not required to include all those things, but say you can think of something right away or came across something right away you want to share, please feel free to add those in. Does that make sense? Any questions about that? That's jumping ahead to that last assignment, but
I'm sorry, I've just got logged in. I'm trying to make sure I understand so in Padlet we're going to do 3 separate entries.
No, you do one running entry with 3 different ideas or 3 main things you're taking away. So let's do a comparison because I know it seems like, okay, well, we just did the classroom-based applications for the book circle. The book circles are based on the actual book you read for the book circle. But in the building foundations for the future, it's based on the whole course. What did you take away from the course as a whole and what might you apply? So for example, like the behaviorism and the behavior charts might be something you take away. It might be the autobiographical narratives as something you want to use in the future. It can even be something like VoiceThread, the app, and be able to apply it with your students in the future. Again, like Angie said, for this building foundations for the future, the more specific you can make your applications to the grade level or content area you think you're going to work in, the better. So like if you're going to do lower elementary, talk about how that might work in a K through 2 classroom versus an upper elementary classroom like 3 through 6. It's going to look different. I know we have some secondary students on board too. So for secondary, how would that look in a secondary classroom or a secondary content area? Okay, so try and make your applications very specific to the grade levels you think you might be working in the future. The way that's going to differ from the enhanced philosophy of education paper is that there are 5 categories for the enhanced philosophy of education paper that I'm having you look at. So within that, it's more like what theories and concepts did you take away for the enhanced philosophy of education paper? Whereas the final one, the building foundations for the future assignment, is more about like, what can you put into the classroom? If you need to distinguish between the two, that's how I think of it. One's more theoretical in that enhanced philosophy education paper. The other one's going to be more practical. Does that help distinguish the two from each other?
I have a question on the building foundations
Mhm.
for the future one. For our peer responses, do you want those like as a running 1, 2, or do you want them in 2 separate?
Let's do a running one. Yeah. Or if
Okay.
you want to just tag it even onto the bottom of that person's running one,
Okay.
just so that they know you've commented on theirs specifically and they can go back and look at what people said about their ideas, that would be great.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh. Are there questions about the building foundations for the future one?
Okay, so I just tried to do a test in terms of setting up so I'm going to do 1 plus, and then it'll automatically show my name in an application for the future, and then I'm going to do 1, 2, and 3 applications.
Yes, exactly.
And then when will I add comments or other people add comments to mine?
Other people add comments to yours, and you're going to go in and add comments to at least 2 other people's.
Right. Do I need to summarize my comments somewhere then for my TA?
You'll put them on the Padlet page under that person. So like say, I'm trying to see who is on board. So say one of the people in your group is Shauna. You're going to go ahead and go to Shauna's 3 applications. At the bottom of hers, you'll add a plus place. You'll add the plus sign to add a comment to Shauna and say, hey, Shauna, I really like that you talked about behavior charts at the lower elementary. I'm thinking they'd also be great for upper elementary, and this is how I connected to it. So you'll put it at the bottom of that person's text. Does that make sense?
I think so. I just did a test on my own, so I mean,
Good.
Thank you for helping me learn.
No problem. Yeah, and I think you really like this. Padlet's a great application to use in any classroom setting, I think, because you can simultaneously see what people are typing. Even if you want to just do an informal check with your students, like, okay, who's understanding, the key vocabulary terms, and have like the vocabulary terms and everyone's like thumbs up, thumbs down, or even just like a quick comment. But you can see simultaneously what students are getting or what they're taking away. So I really like Padlet. I think it's a great app to use as a whole class. That's why I combine the groups. You can see a little bit more variety too in the responses for that final assignment. So you'll have up to 15 people per group. That worked out really well, by the way, TAs, that I was able to group the 10 groups of 10 with the groups of 5, and it matched up perfectly. So that was something that usually doesn't happen, but worked out really well. So you'll be able to see, like Jennifer, I paired you with a group of 5, and same thing with my groups of 10. You've now been paired with groups of 5 for that final assignment. One other thing, I want to jump back real quick to the enhanced philosophy of education paper. Remember I told you for this one, it's going to have specific headings to give you a little bit more structure than what you did for that first paper, your initial philosophy of education paper. So there are 5 headings in that enhanced philosophy of education paper. You're just going to open up a Word document, put your name, and put those 5 headings. Then before you type anything, I want you to go back to your original philosophy of education paper, the first one you wrote, that initial one. Look at what you wrote and see is there anything that will fit into any of those 5 headings. If there is, copy and paste, even if it's just one sentence. It might be a couple of sentences. It might be the whole thing you can break up and put in different parts. It's whatever fits. Don't make it fit, but whatever does fit. Put it into those 5 headings and leave it italicized. So we know that's your original initial philosophy of education paper. Then you're going to build on it by adding new information in. And I've given you guided questions under each of those headings to kind of give you a sense of what I'm looking for within each of those 5 areas. There are lots of questions there to guide you. You do not need to answer all those questions. Just think about what is the main idea that I'm trying to get at in that section, and then you can pick like maybe 1 or 2 questions to answer. If you're very linear, you might say, okay, I'm going to answer these 2 questions, and that's all I need to answer. Or you can just get a sense of what the questions are asking and just kind of run with it. It's up to how you want to approach it. The main thing is like the section where it says Foundations of Education, there's a heading, Foundations of Education. It asks specifically about your philosophy, which philosophy you most align with. Definitely that would be a question to answer, right? Because that we spent a lot of chapters on our philosophies of education. So you really want to pick the 1 or 2 that you most align with and talk about why. But there are some, for example, in the classroom environment section where it asks about your code of conduct or your code of ethics. In the content video, there's an example of what I mean by that for this week. But maybe you don't want to focus on that so much. You want to talk more about the classroom environment being more inclusive and making sure you're addressing the cultural diversity of your classroom. That's fine. You can take that where you want to go. But just think, what is the most essential thing I want to address in each of these sections, and make sure you've addressed that. And build on what you already have from your initial paper. Does that make sense?
If we can't find anything that matches from our initial code of our initial philosophy, did we not put anything in italics?
Yeah, that's fine. And just put a little note, say, hey, nothing aligned. Just so that your TA knows you did look
really
at it,
missed it on my first draft.
No, that's all right. And, I mean,
What I hear you saying, if it doesn't fit, don't put it in. But
yeah,
if it fits,
yeah, exactly. And like, I'm looking for things that go beyond, I want to teach because I love children, you know. What about specifically teaching do you love and that called you to be an elementary or secondary teacher beyond just loving kids? Okay. So yeah, definitely, Andy, don't make it fit if it doesn't. And that's fine. That's what the initial one was. It was a real vague kind of, what do you think in general? And if it doesn't fit, don't feel bad.
so would it help? I think I will find some things, but I'm all about labeling and, so, I mean, can I just say excerpt from initial and then in italic, or do I not even need to do that?
You don't even need to do that. Just as long as it's in italics, we'll know that's from your original paper. So just cut and paste it into the right heading and then build on it.
Okay.
Yeah. And then when you write new, just leave it in regular font. So we know that's the new stuff.
Something like, I've learned so much in this class from.
That's good. I like that.
You can see from my entry above.
Because my one sentence, and then here's all my new stuff. No, that's fine. That's good. Other questions about the enhanced philosophy of education paper?
I have one again. Do you want it double spaced like our original one?
Yes, make it double spaced. 1 inch font, 12-point font. Oh, sorry, 1 inch margins, 12-point font. Yeah. Good question. And believe me, we'll know, like I've seen in the past, even master students, it'll be like 16-point font, 1.5 inch margins, you know. Don't do that, please. I mean, treat it like an academic paper, 12-point font, 1 inch margins. Because then we'll just ask you to go back and write more. If the text is too big, we'll say, please go back and add stuff and shrink your text. I like that. Andy, you're hilarious. That's good. All right, and then the title page question for either building foundations or for the future enhanced philosophy education paper. No, I'm not requiring a title page. Just make sure your name is up at the top, maybe as a header, so that it consistently shows. If you want to add a title page to the enhanced philosophy education paper, you can, but it's not required. The rubric doesn't have points for that, so I wouldn't stress about a title page. And the reason it isn't enhanced papers because these 5 headings are something you'll see again when you get to the end of your practicum. You'll be asked to revisit your philosophy of education and build on it from the other courses. And also, as you get into your future professional practice and interview for jobs, you'll revise it one more time to say, hey, here's my philosophy of education to give to potential administrators. So it'll continue to evolve. That's why it's an enhanced philosophy of education, not a final philosophy of ed. Because even like 5 years in, you're going to go back and look at that philosophy paper and like, wow, my philosophy sure changed after 5 years of teaching, right? So it'll always be evolving. Other questions about any of those? All right. 2 quick reminders I do have for you. There are 2 other things we'll do at the end of the week. You'll have your exit survey, and that's very similar to the Are You Ready survey that you did at the beginning of the semester. This one just asks you for a little bit more specific feedback about like the assignments you did, some of the platforms you used. It'll ask for specific feedback on your TA. You'll also have a TVAL that'll be posted. Both of these will be posted on Friday, but you'll have up through next week to finish those out, like next Friday. And you'll get reminders to work on both of these. But the TVAL is really more just for like global campus and a distance course in general. The exit survey is going to give real specific feedback about this course, the content, the apps, the iBook, your TAs. So if you can do both, that would be really beneficial to us within the program itself. So please watch for those. I'll try and post the exit survey by Thursday. I just want to get some feedback from the TAs. I might have you guys look at the TAs online. I might have you look at it real quick and give you some additional ideas for questions we might pose. And then I'll post that Thursday or Friday morning. And the TVAL will come live Friday. That's an automatically generated TVAL that's, like I said, more for global campus than for the MAP program. So please make sure to watch for both of those. You're not getting grades per se on those, but the feedback is really critical for us within the program and within global campus. So please make sure to do both of those. Questions about those? The exit survey and the TVAL? Okay. And then the content video for this week was posted. It took forever to upload, but it's now posted in your week 3 course module. So take a little time to look through that if you wouldn't mind. And all the final chapters are posted. I think everything's up and running now for this final week. Any other questions on content or materials for week 3? Okay. There was one other thing I was going to mention, and I forgot what it was. I just can't believe we're already in our third week. It's just crazy. Time has flown.
I have one more question.
Uh-huh.
Sorry.
No, that's
What
fine.
is the scavenger hunt?
Okay, in the content-based video, I share that's for chapter 11. And it's basically just a way to review the key points from chapter 11 and what I want you to take away. So the handout's there for you just to print out and kind of fill out. You don't need to turn it in for points. The nice thing about the scavenger hunt, it also is going to give you a link to the Kansas State Department of Education website. And when we're talking about standards, we have standards for each grade level and content area, and it links you to the website so you can take a look at those standards and start to get familiar with those. Because as we move into your next courses, you're going to do much more with the standards and actually start to write lessons using those standards. So this is a good introduction to it. Okay, and again, just fill out the scavenger hunt paper for your own information. You don't have to turn it in for a grade. But that handout will pull out the key things from chapter 11 for you.
Where are the papers, Mom?
Any, for the TAs, any tips on the standards, things they should be aware of as they start to look at the standards?
I'll look in a minute.
Don't expect to know them all and at one time, and give themselves some time and some patience with them. It does take some time, and it can look foreign, but the more you expose yourself to it, the better and more comfortable you'll get with the standards. So be ready to kind of be, I can't even think of a word for it, but just be ready to be concerned and a little afraid of them, but you will get them and you will understand them. Don't run from them, shall I say.
That's a good tip.
Just embrace them, and just know that you're not going to totally get them, right when you start looking at them. It'll take some time to pick up and understand. So be patient with that, and just know that this particular part and this particular course in the program might get a little bit stressful trying to understand. It's a lot of new information in a different sense rather than technology.
Yeah. And those content standards, they can be, like Dr. Child says, very overwhelming, particularly because you have them by content area, and then there's all this introductory material, and then you really don't get to the actual standards until you scroll down to like page 10 or 12 in most of those documents. So, just get a sense of what they are and what they look like for this assignment, that scavenger hunt. I do ask you to try and pick one out and write it down just so you know like how to identify a standard, but you'll get more training on how to actually use them and apply them in lesson planning as the courses go on. So yeah, great tip. Thank you, Dr. Strauss. Any other questions?
I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot, so
No, that's okay.
I'd like to go back to the philosophy of education assignment in hand. And maybe I'm getting this confused with the other. As I look at the rubric, I thought there were 10. That's something else though, isn't it?
Yeah, there are only five headings that you're going to use for the paper.
But okay. And so the questions that are included there we don't have to necessarily answer all of them. They're there to stimulate our thinking.
Exactly.
And to include then our italics kind of initial kind of thoughts on that area, and then go on into the questions, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and those questions are going to give you, like you said, they'll stimulate your thoughts, get an idea of what we're looking for within that section. And then I definitely referenced in there with each question, I tried to link it back to the iBooks. If you want to go back and look at chapters, you can reference information to build on that within your writing.
So the then our references would then.
Oh, okay. I'm not on video. I have the video shut off.
Okay. I wasn't sure.
In terms of citations, then if we reference anything other, we would reference the chapter then?
Yeah, reference a chapter if it's something you're pulling from the book, or like say you want to reference one of the articles you read or one of the video discussions, just reference what's within the chapter that you pull from.
And so we would reference that chapter page?
Yes.
And then do you want to reference for that actual document as well, or that actual resource as well?
Yeah, at the end you can just say, there's a citation that's online already for the iBook, but it's basically just Perez, D, and the year. I think I updated them all to be 2019, and then just the page number and chapter. Well, chapter first, then page number.
So we include chapter and page number?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And if you're not sure, just say, here's what I did, shoot it to your TA, and they'll clarify any citations for you. Any other questions? And Anna, don't worry about it. That's all right. So the content standards are really more to guide your lesson planning, I would say, than for certification. They're not going to say on your praxis test, what is standard E3.10? They're not going to ask you that specifically, but they might say, in what ways are you going to use the standards to guide instructional practice and help you evaluate student performance? You know, so they might reference it in general like that, but they're not going to ask you to memorize the whole standards document and, you know, be able to pinpoint one standard and cite it verbatim. Does that help clarify the question about content standards being for certification?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. And your future professors, they start to ask you to write lesson plans, will say, go ahead and cite the standard for the lesson plan within here. So that's, I would say those are the main two ways you'll see them. Okay, excellent. All right, well, looks like we have a couple more minutes. Any other questions I can answer for you guys? Well, if you get a chance to just say a thank you again to your excellent TAs. They've been great throughout this whole process, really giving awesome feedback and guidance from what I've seen. I've been going through looking at assignments, but also looking at feedback from them, and I've been super impressed with the quality of work that you produced and then the quality of feedback they've provided. So I think that's one of the things that makes our program pretty unique, is having this individualized support with our TAs. And again, just a reminder, you'll have the same TAs throughout the program so that as you get into your student teaching, they'll know you really well and be able to guide you really well throughout that process, which I think, again, is also really nice. So great job, TAs, existing ones and new ones. You've done awesome. And I'll be shooting the TAs a follow-up email here later today for week 3 stuff. All right. Any other final questions? We have about a minute left before we're going to get cut off here. Okay. Well, let's finish the week strong. We're in our last week. We've had, 14 days of amazing learnings. Let's finish out with this last week and get some great new insights going. All right. Well, thank you all so much for logging in. I'll post this session as well. And I will see you guys later. Have a great week. Bye, everyone.